was a really interesting exercise, and it's hard to do. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people confuse the what and the why a little bit. I do too, from time to time. I think you need to get centered back as to what's your deep purpose.
yeah.
Or are you doing this? Why? Like, hey, good morning, Lynette. How are you? How are things in Toronto? Go Raptors.
Go Raptors, go, for sure. Can you believe it? It's
There.
such an amazing thing. This city is just on fire. I was in an Uber yesterday, and this guy, the Uber driver, he was rattling off how, for sure we are going to win the finals. And it was just sort of, I was saying to him like earlier, a few weeks ago, like why do we even need to do these sort of conference finals? Why don't we just go straight to the end and give Golden State the championship? Because that's sort of how it always usually rolls. But there's lots of optimism here around the Raptors. So go Raptors, for sure.
I was thinking of that. That it's kind of odd, right? Because the Leafs have been waiting for so long. Leaf fans, those hockey fans, to win. It's going to be so ironic that the Raptors might, this pent-up demand in Toronto to have a winner.
I know.
Get there first, but anyway, good for them and good for everybody, and the whole country's been having fun watching, and yeah, it's kind of cool. So anyway, here we are, and we're going to talk a little bit about maybe something that people take for granted, and it's way more than a consulting kind of thing. Simon Sinek, the well-known consultant, had this very famous TED Talk and book all around why, right?
Yeah, find your why.
He really tapped into a very simple but elegant but really important concept. And you and I have been reflecting on this thinking around, it's still not maybe given as much consideration or thought as it should, the importance of why. So way beyond a consulting kind of thing and everything else, let's just talk about the practicality of how we build that thinking into our daily work life.
Yeah. For me, I find like a lot of people still don't understand the concept of why. Well, there's sort of three fences. One, they've never even heard of Simon Sinek before, and I've run into that a little bit into my work these days as I help organizations really sort of get to the crux of why they're making the transformation that they're making. And two, lots of people are like, they still are confused with, how do I write a why statement? And three, when they start to write the why statement, it always tends to be a what statement. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing. It's a hard thing to do. And it's something that a few months ago, actually back in May, I went to New York and I spent 2 days in a Simon Sinek workshop with his team, finding my own why. And I sort of was walking in there thinking, yeah, I got this. I know my why. But, after 2 days of really telling stories and working with in these sort of little collaboration groups, I came out with a completely different why for my work mostly, but it was a really interesting exercise, and it's hard to do. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think people confuse the what and the why a little bit. I do too, from time to time. I think you need to get centered back as to what's your deep purpose.
Yeah.
Or are you doing this? Why? Like, and you and I joint experience on that was when we did this big transition on Microsoft to the G Suite. We spent 3 months talking to 5,000 people about why before we did anything. We did why, and then you're doing this little small project for me right now, and I think you put that learning to work, and maybe you could talk a little bit about how you're approaching that little project.
Yeah, so and it's right, you've asked me to come and do a little bit of work in your new role as the culture lead at Norquest, and you asked me to facilitate a session for you. And the first thing I thought about was, it's easy to come up into an organization, and I'm sure you're just turning heads and with great ideas and stuff like that. I'm sure that your persona and your presence is causing a lot of great things there, because that's kind of what you do in an organization. But it's often, I think people can get caught up in, they just want to hear good ideas and creative ideas, and they love everything that Lorne is saying, and they're just going to start executing on it. So one of the things that I thought about when I'm preparing my agenda for you is, well, let's first help them with the why, even though they probably understand this is the idea, and they want, why they want to, they understand the idea. But what I feel like is that if they don't really understand the why behind it, you'll never be able to transfer the ownership. And that ownership, that transfer of ownership, is really something that is important when you're asking people to do things differently. So when I sat down and did the agenda, I thought, let's first talk about why we want to do this idea and stand this idea up. And let's get them part of creating the why for it. So there's your reasoning because you've done it before and you know that that's a good idea and it's something that should be done in the organization. You see it as a gap. But if they don't understand and if they don't create their own why for it, you'll never really be able to, I think, get the lift off that you're really trying to get. So
yeah, I completely agree. And I think I'm notorious for machine gunning my ideas out. And because I've gone through the whole why in my head, I think everybody's got it. So it's kind of like, yeah, I want to do these hangouts. I want to talk to the whole college once a week. I want to make it live with, I don't know what the branding is going to be, but I want to do, so I kind of do it and everybody's kind of going, yeah, okay. Okay, let's get people together and start executing on it. And you were just reminding me, hey, wait a minute, let's make sure people know why the hell you want to do it. Because if not, they're just going to transact and just respond. And of course, if you've got a position that it's a more senior position, people want to be responsive. But if you skip by the why, you're going to end up, it's going to be a cluster somewhere along the way because we're not going to get what you're really trying to do, what the lessons of it. Right?
That's right. And when you say it's going to be a cluster, that's exactly it. I think that we need to move away from this top down where they have all the ideas, where all senior leadership have the ideas, they put the ideas out into the force, and then people just start executing on it. I just don't think that is the way that you collectively work as a team, that you can get that collaboration that you're looking for and advancement of the organization. I think the minute you have an idea, regardless of where it's coming from, but you especially as a senior leader, if you have an idea, the first thing that I would be thinking is, how do I transfer this idea into my team so that they run with it? And all you're doing is, conducting and creating the conditions for it to flourish. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important thing to emphasize, because if you can really get the why and the purpose, then of course your team is going to be very creative and make it way better than necessarily, because they're going to bring context and rich angles and perspectives. And that's clearly the inclusive way. I know, because sometimes I think, my idea is the best, right? Like, oh, man, it came out of my head, so it's got to be great. How could everybody else not figure it was great? And I think you kind of, and you have to stand back because, I can think, I'm not a command and control guy, right? But then sometimes you can inadvertently become one just by your enthusiasm or your well-intended kind of, so you get into the what and the how, and you don't back up into the why. So in essence, I hadn't thought about this when we were talking about the topic, but I think, the way to get out of command and control is to start with the why.
Yeah, I think in everything, like it's, there's the why. So when, going back to Simon Sinek, so there's the why for the organization. He believes that every organization that, does what they do from the inside out, meaning the why, the how, and the what, then those are the most successful organizations. But if that's even at the organizational level, but even at a project level, even at anything that you want to do, just anything, if clarity of the why, I think really helps people sort of see themselves in that vision and allows them the opportunity to really sort of open up and sort of bring creativity to that idea as well. So.
Yeah, and I think the kind of light bulb for me, like I say, I hadn't thought about it at the beginning of this conversation, is it is a very helpful way to become more of a gardener than a platoon commander.
Yeah.
Because when you really dig people into the why, then it's a natural way to cause engagement to happen. And actually, you can kind of go faster because the people are going to so the whole why of having transparent, open community building conversations, which translate for me as let's do hangouts and spotlights kind of thing, or let's do these things. we really need to dig into it because it needs to be contextualized in the context of what makes sense for the college, right?
That's right.
College is a different environment than what ATD was or any other organization. So the purpose is one that everybody can dig in, but the what and the how can be very different, right? And it should be different.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, when you're trying to, in this case, you want me to stand up these weekly video calls that really, in essence, are opening the organization to transparency in terms of the direction you want to take the organization for your particular sort of mandate. So for me, I feel like that is where, you know, people are sort of, they're interested in hearing the problems or answers or the direction or something that that are specific to them, not to sort of you, I guess.
No, true. It's definitely, it has to be a personal connection with them. Why would they show up?
Right, exactly. So to continue on, so when I come out to Edmonton and I spend some time with you and your team, the first thing that we're going to do is really sort of hear from you what is the idea and sort of kind of why you want to do it. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to allow the team the opportunity to take what they heard from you and continue to build on that and maybe ask some questions, maybe lift some rocks. First thing that we want to do is sort of get on the table everything that is, you know, kind of sitting in the back of their mind going, dumb idea. They could be potentially thinking dumb idea, or how does this work, or how will we possibly execute on something like this? Sorry. And then the third thing is we're going to create the why statement for these sessions. And I think the minute they start to have those conversations around, you know, what is it that these sort of live with Rubis sessions are really going to do for the organization, you're going to get so much insight into the problems that they feel need to be handled or solved within the organization. I think, you know, they get the concept of the sessions, and then they start telling stories about what's going to happen to the organization, what is the impact on the organization when you start doing these sessions. And I think that then leads to a really nice why statement. And then from there, a set of principles, values for sort of leading those sessions. And then from there, that's how you really start to create really good content and ideas for those sessions. So if you translate that into anything, first it's the, you know, to insert the impact, so that insert the contribution. That's sort of a why statement template. That's the Simon Sinek why template. And then from there you get the values. So we will always, you know, we will do these, you know, we're going to have fun while we're doing them, or whatever other kind of values you want to put into place. But then the third piece again is, what are sort of the things that we do to stand up those values and stand up that why? So
yeah. So I made a presentation. Maybe this can be a wrap-up kind of comment or a little bit between you and I. We can to a bunch of financial executives here in Edmonton about a month ago. They were asking me about how do I approach transformation, and I talked about 3 streams and 4 levers. And the first stream is you got to find the why, and there has to be a personal emotional connection to the why.
Yeah,
that is the way you've got to. In my view, you've got to do them all. But that's the way you start. And when you can tap into that and people can see themselves in the why, then personally see themselves in the why, you've got a much better shot at continuing to accelerate that. So, you know, I thought this might be kind of a redundant topic when Karen has said we should talk about this more, but I think you're right. I think it's worth reminding ourselves. It was worth reminding me and to eat my own dog food. So thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. Have a good day.
Yeah, you bet. Bye.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Okay.